April 1st, 2006, started like any other spring evening in Columbus, Ohio. The weather was warming, the Ohio State University campus was buzzing with energy, and students were eager to kick off their spring break. Among them was 27-year-old medical student Brian Shaffer, a smart, easygoing guy with a bright future ahead of him. Just weeks before, he had lost his mother to a battle with cancer. Her death had hit him hard, but he was determined to push forward. Brian was finishing up his second year at Ohio State's College of Medicine and had big plans, including a vacation to Miami with his girlfriend Alexis, where many believed he planned to propose. That night, Brian had dinner with his father, Randy. According to Randy, Brian seemed tired from studying all week but otherwise in good spirits. Their conversation covered his future, his plans with Alexis, and even how much he was looking forward to a break. Randy would later describe the evening as a good one, ordinary but meaningful in hindsight. After dinner, Brian met up with his friend Clint Florence, and the two headed out to enjoy a night on the town. They began their bar crawl around 9 p.m., starting at the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a lively, often crowded bar near the Ohio State campus. The Ugly Tuna was known for its upbeat vibe, live music, and cheap drinks. Bartenders and patrons alike remembered the night being busy but unremarkable. Brian and Clint took several shots at their first stop and visited a couple more bars. Witnesses would later confirm they appeared to be in good spirits. Brian was drinking but not visibly intoxicated. Along the way, Clint contacted Meredith Reed, a mutual friend, who agreed to meet up with them. She picked them up and drove them back to the Ugly Tuna around 1:15 a.m. Surveillance footage from the bar shows all three arriving and taking the escalator up to the bar's entrance. At the time, the Ugly Tuna was located on the second floor of a small shopping plaza. Inside, the bar had multiple levels, a small dance floor, and a back exit used primarily by employees. Around 1:55 a.m., Brian was seen on camera again, standing just outside the bar's entrance. He was talking with two young women who were later identified and questioned. The interaction appeared friendly and brief. He then walked out of the camera's view, turning back toward the entrance. That was the last time Brian Shaffer was seen. When the bar closed around 2 a.m., Clint and Meredith searched for Brian but couldn't find him. They assumed he had slipped out, perhaps to go home early or meet up with someone else. They called his phone, but there was no answer. The next day, Alexis grew worried when Brian didn't return her calls. Her concern deepened when she learned he had missed their flight to Miami. Brian was never one to flake out, especially not without warning. His car was still parked at his apartment. His bed had not been slept in. Police were called. Surveillance footage was reviewed. The camera clearly captured Brian entering the bar, and again outside, just before closing. But there was no footage of him ever leaving. Every single patron who exited the front door was recorded on video. Brian was not among them. There was a second possible exit, a back service door leading into a dimly lit, hazardous construction zone. Investigators considered the possibility that Brian used this route, either by accident or intentionally. But that alley was full of dangers: loose concrete, exposed wiring, and broken fencing. It was unlikely anyone unfamiliar with the layout would take that exit unless they were forced or misled. Despite thorough searches involving K9 units, dive teams, and infrared scans, no sign of Brian was ever found in that area. Not a scrap of clothing, no blood, no dropped phone, nothing. Brian's phone activity stopped after his disappearance, until one strange moment months later. Alexis had continued calling his number nightly, unable to let go. Usually the calls went straight to voicemail. But in September 2006, the phone rang 3 times before cutting out. Cell tower data showed the call pinged in Hilliard, Ohio, a suburb 14 miles away. Singular, his carrier at the time, claimed it was likely a network glitch, but Alexis and many others believed it was more than that. Former Detective John Hurst later revealed Brian's phone may have pinged near campus days after he vanished, hinting that the device was still active for a short time. Columbus police interviewed over 100 people connected to Brian's case. Clint, his close friend and drinking buddy that night, refused to take a polygraph and hired an attorney. Though he never officially became a suspect, his silence raised questions that still linger. Meredith, on the other hand, passed a polygraph and cooperated fully. Alexis, who was out of town during the disappearance, was quickly ruled out. Brian's apartment showed no signs of packing or struggle. His bank account and credit cards were never touched. Family and friends dismissed the idea that Brian had taken his own life. He had been looking forward to his future, especially the Miami trip. Though grieving his mother's loss, he was still attending class, spending time with loved ones and making plans. Brian's case gained national media attention. Flyers went up across the state. America's Most Wanted and Dateline covered the story. The FBI got involved. Cadaver dogs swept the area. Divers searched nearby rivers. But no trace of Brian emerged. In 2008, heartbreak struck again when Randy Shaffer, Brian's father, was killed in a freak accident in his backyard. A tree limb fell during a storm, ending his life instantly. In Randy's obituary, Brian was still listed as missing. Over the years, Brian was reportedly spotted in multiple states, even abroad. People claimed to see him in Atlanta, in Michigan, and one person even claimed they saw him playing guitar in a band in Sweden. None of the sightings were verified. In 2021, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation released an age-progressed image of Brian. Despite the renewed interest, no credible leads followed. Brian Shaffer didn't just vanish. He disappeared in a place surrounded by people, cameras, and lights. A bar full of witnesses, a city full of police, a case full of theories. Some believe he died in the construction zone and his body was somehow missed. Others think foul play was involved, possibly an altercation inside or just outside the bar. More speculative theories involve drug activity, the smiley-face killer, or an elaborate plan to disappear and start a new life. But after nearly 2 decades, no theory has provided closure. This is Specter Archives. And sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones that never find an ending. If this story chilled you like it did us, subscribe for more real-life mysteries that defy explanation. Leave your thoughts and theories in the comments. We read every single one. And remember, stay curious, stay cautious, and never look away.